Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most mind-blowing stories in the entire world of coin collecting. A story that sounds almost impossible. How could a single 1-cent coin from the year 1990, something so small and ordinary that most of us would never even notice it, be worth an absolutely staggering $173 million? You heard that right. Not thousand, not million, but 173 million US dollars. It's the kind of number that makes you stop whatever you're doing and wonder, how can a copper-colored penny that people use to drop on sidewalks or ignore at the grocery store suddenly be worth more than an entire luxury apartment complex, more than private jets, more than some of the most famous paintings ever sold? What could possibly make a 1990 penny so special? So sit tight, because in this video we're going to travel deep into the history, the design, the metal composition, the tiny details that separate a common coin from a life-changing treasure. We'll explore what happened in the US Mint during those years, why certain coins turned out to be different, how coin errors are discovered, and how collectors place such astronomical values on pieces of metal that most of us never pay attention to. And yes, we'll also talk about how that supposed $173 million price tag came into existence, whether it's real, exaggerated, or a myth fueled by internet rumors. But before we even get there, we have to understand what the 1991 cent coin actually is. Let's start with what's known as the Lincoln cent. Since 1909, the United States Mint has been producing 1-cent coins featuring the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the front, or what numismatists call the obverse. The Lincoln cent is one of the longest-running coin series in U.S. history, and its design has gone through several stages. The wheat reverse from 1909 to 1958, the Lincoln Memorial reverse from 1959 to 2008, and then the Union Shield reverse starting in 2010. But our focus is the year 1990, right in the middle of the Lincoln Memorial era. During that period, the penny featured Lincoln's famous profile facing right, designed by Victor David Brenner. Above Lincoln's head appear the words, "In God We Trust." To the left the word, "Liberty," and on the right the date 1990. Under the date, depending on where the coin was minted, you might find a tiny letter, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, or sometimes nothing at all, which means it came from Philadelphia. Those little mint marks are tiny details, but as you'll soon discover, they can mean the difference between a coin that's worth 1 cent and a coin that could change someone's life. Now, the reverse side, the back of the coin, shows the Lincoln Memorial in beautiful detail. If you look closely at a real coin under magnification, you can even see a tiny statue of Lincoln sitting inside the memorial, perfectly centered between the columns. Above it reads, "United States of America." Below that, "E pluribus unum," a Latin phrase meaning, "out of many, one." And at the bottom, the word, 1 cent. It's simple, elegant, and a constant reminder of the American ideal of unity. But by 1990, the materials used to make the penny had changed dramatically. For most of the 20th century, pennies were made primarily of copper. However, starting in 1982, because copper prices were rising and it became too expensive to produce a 1-cent coin actually worth more than 1 cent, the U.S. Mint decided to switch the composition. So by the time we reached 1990, the 1-cent coin was no longer mostly copper. It was actually made of 97.5% zinc with just a thin copper plating, which gives it that reddish-brown color. Its total weight was only about 2.5 grams, and its diameter just 19 millimeters, tiny yet packed with decades of symbolism and history. Now, you might be wondering, if millions, actually billions, of these 1990 pennies were produced, then how can any single one of them be worth even more than a few cents? The answer lies in rarity, error, and mystery. In the world of coin collecting, a coin's value depends not only on its age, but also on its condition, its rarity, and especially on whether it has any mistakes. The US Mint is usually incredibly precise, but every once in a while, due to a mechanical glitch, human oversight, or a transition between dies, a small batch of coins can come out with unique features, double strikes, missing mint marks, off-center designs, or metal compositions that weren't supposed to exist. And it's these mistakes that drive collectors wild, sometimes pushing values from pocket change into the millions. The 1991 cent coin that reportedly fetched a value close to $173 million, or at least became the center of that viral story, is rumored to be one of those extremely rare mint errors. According to various collector discussions and viral posts, the coin in question was a 1990 Lincoln cent struck without its S mint mark. That's right, the S was missing entirely. Normally, proof coins made in San Francisco bear that small S, a tiny mark of quality that identifies their origin. But a handful of 1990 proof pennies somehow left the mint without this mark, even though they were intended for proof sets sold directly to collectors. When this was discovered, the coin world went into shock. Imagine paying a few dollars for a proof set and later realizing that one of the coins inside might be one of only a few dozen in existence. That kind of rarity is what sends prices soaring. The story of the 1990 NOS proof set begins at the San Francisco Mint, where proof coins are struck with specially polished dies on mirrored planchets. Planchets are blank metal discs before the design is pressed into them. The mint workers polish these dies until they gleam, ensuring that the proof coins have a reflective surface that looks almost like a tiny mirror. They are struck multiple times under higher pressure, which gives them sharp details and a stunning finish. Collectors prize these proof coins for their perfection. But in 1990, something went wrong. A small number of dies prepared for the proof pennies were missing the S mint mark, possibly due to human error during the die-making process. These dies were still used to strike a limited number of coins before the mistake was caught. Once the error was discovered, production stopped immediately, but by then, some of the coins had already been packaged and shipped out as part of official proof sets. It didn't take long for numismatists, serious coin experts, to realize that this was a big deal. The 1990 NOS Lincoln cent became one of the most sought-after modern rarities in U.S. coinage. Early sales saw these coins reaching prices in the thousands, then tens of thousands. As more collectors competed to own one, prices skyrocketed even further. Some auctions saw pristine examples graded PR69 deep cameo by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC selling for over $20,000 to $30,000. But that's a far cry from $173 million. So where does that number come from? Well, part of it comes from how the internet works. Over the past decade, as coin videos and TikTok shorts began to go viral, people started sharing wild claims about coins found in pocket change being worth millions. Sometimes those claims are based on real, but rare auction results, and other times they're pure exaggeration. Someone somewhere took the story of the 1990 NOS proof cent and inflated its value beyond all reason, until it reached this mythical $173 million figure. And once a number like that circulates online, it becomes clickbait gold. Suddenly everyone wants to check their pennies. Everyone wants to believe they might have the golden ticket sitting in a jar of loose change. But even if the $173 million figure is unrealistic, the truth is still fascinating. A regular 1990 penny might be worth 1 cent. A 1990 D or 1990 Philadelphia Mint penny in uncirculated condition might fetch 25 to 50 cents from a collector, and a 1990 S-proof penny in normal condition might sell for a few dollars. Yet a 1990 NOS proof cent is a genuine rarity. Only a few hundred examples are known to exist, and that alone gives it legitimate collector value in the tens of thousands of dollars, even hundreds of thousands, for the best preserved specimens. That's still extraordinary for something that weighs only 2.5 grams and measures less than an inch across. Let's take a step back for a moment and think about what makes people so obsessed with coins like this. A penny represents far more than its face value. It's a miniature time capsule, a piece of art, a reflection of a nation's history and identity. The Lincoln cent, in particular, connects Americans with the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, his leadership, his words, his fight for unity. Every time you hold one, you're touching a tiny piece of that story. And for collectors, the thrill lies in the hunt, in the idea that something incredibly valuable might be hiding in plain sight. It's the same human instinct that drives treasure hunters, explorers, and historians. Coins tell stories about wars, about politics, about economics, but they also tell stories about mistakes, about human error, and how those small imperfections can turn ordinary metal into a priceless artifact. The 1990 Noah cent stands as one of those stories. When it first surfaced, many collectors were skeptical. After all, similar errors had occurred before. The 1971 Noah's Jefferson nickel, the 1983 Noah's dime, the 1970s small-date Lincoln cent, all of them became legends in their own right. But the 1990 proof cents error confirmed that even in an era of advanced minting technology, perfection was still impossible. And that imperfection became perfection in the eyes of collectors. Over the years, coin shows, auctions, and grading companies have verified its authenticity, and each time a new example appears, it sends ripples through the hobby. Imagine the scene. A collector in 1990 opens a brand new proof set, perhaps as a Christmas gift or a hobby purchase. He looks through the clear plastic case, admiring the mirrored surfaces of the coins, and then he notices something strange. The penny doesn't have the little S. Maybe he thinks it's a trick of the light, maybe he brushes it off. But months later, he reads about the missing S in a numismatic magazine and realizes he's holding a treasure. That's the magic of coin collecting, the slow realization that something so common can be so unique. The weight of the 1990 cent, as mentioned, is 2.5 grams, composed mostly of zinc with a thin copper coating, the same as today's pennies. That composition change in 1982 marked the end of an era, when pennies actually had intrinsic metal value. Before that, older copper pennies weighed 3.11 grams. But the switch to zinc made the coins cheaper to produce and lighter. From a design perspective, though, they stayed the same. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Lincoln has been used for over a century, making it one of the most enduring designs in world coinage. Brenner originally based the design on a photograph of Lincoln taken by Matthew Brady, emphasizing the deep lines of Lincoln's face, a symbol of wisdom and struggle. That design, paired with the Lincoln Memorial reverse, creates a coin that's instantly recognizable around the world. Now, if we consider the 1990 penny's symbolism, there's a poetic irony to the idea of it being worth $173 million. Lincoln himself came from humble beginnings, born in a log cabin, self-taught, rising through hardship to lead a nation. The penny, the smallest denomination of U.S. currency, carries his image, a reminder that greatness can come from modest origins. So when people hear about a single penny being worth millions, it resonates with that deeper metaphor, the little coin that could, the overlooked object that suddenly becomes the center of attention, the humble transformed into the extraordinary. That's why these stories captivate audiences online. They speak to something bigger than money. They tap into hope, curiosity, and wonder. Still, it's important to separate myth from fact. The claim that a 1990 penny sold for $173 million is almost certainly false. The most expensive coin ever sold, as of real auction records, is the 1933 Double Eagle Gold coin, which fetched around $18.9 million at Sotheby's in 2021. So for a modern zinc penny to sell for nearly 10 times that amount would be historically impossible. But the rumor persists because of viral videos, misinterpreted news, and exaggerated headlines. Someone might see an eBay listing with a ridiculous asking price and assume that's the market value, when in reality it's just wishful thinking. Now let's go even deeper, because the real fascination with the 1991 cent coin isn't just about a single missing mint mark. It's about the entire hidden world behind how coins are born, how errors happen, and how human stories mix with metal, design, and chance to create something that collectors treat almost like sacred relics. Imagine the scene inside the United States Mint in 1990. Huge machines rumbling day and night, molten metal being poured, copper-plated zinc blanks clinking together in massive hoppers, presses striking tens of thousands of coins every hour. Every single piece that comes out is supposed to be identical, uniform, predictable, efficient. But here's the secret: no machine, no system, no human process is ever truly perfect. And sometimes, imperfection itself becomes the spark of beauty, rarity, and unimaginable value. Inside those mint walls, even the smallest slip, a mismatched die, a missing punch, a misplaced mint mark, can change everything. A single worker might install a proof die missing its mint mark without realizing it. For a few minutes, or maybe an hour, coins roll out that shouldn't exist. Then someone notices, the press has stopped, the die is replaced, and production resumes. But those few coins that escaped, sealed in proof sets, start their secret journey out into the world. They end up in collectors' hands, in jewelry boxes, in drawers, forgotten until one day, decades later, someone discovers the truth. And when they do, the story spreads like wildfire. That's how legends like the 1990 Noah's penny are born, not in boardrooms or marketing departments, but in the quiet accidents of real life. But to really understand why collectors go crazy over something like this, you have to look at the psychology behind rarity. Human beings have always been drawn to the idea of the rare, the unique, the one-of-a-kind. From ancient gemstones to misprinted stamps, from vintage cars to misstruck coins, we find beauty in what defies expectation. In the world of numismatics, rarity is like gold dust. The fewer examples that exist, the higher the value climbs. Combine that with a famous figure like Abraham Lincoln, a century-old design, and the prestige of a proof coin, and you've got a perfect storm. A coin like the 1990 Noah cent isn't just metal, it's a story trapped in copper and zinc, and the story goes back much further than 1990. Let's rewind to 1909, the year the Lincoln cent was first introduced. That was the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, and the U.S. Mint wanted to honor him with a brand new design, the first American coin to feature a real person's portrait. Victor David Brenner, a sculptor of Lithuanian origin, was chosen for the job. His design was elegant yet personal, Lincoln's thoughtful profile inspired by a photograph, surrounded by simple, powerful words. "In God we trust, liberty," and the year of issue. On the reverse, 2 wheat stalks framed the words, 1 cent. It was a symbol of prosperity and growth, fitting for the man who held the country together during its darkest days. When the coin launched, people lined up to get them. Even then, the Lincoln cent stirred emotion and pride, and controversy too, because Brenner's initials, BDB, appeared prominently on the bottom of the reverse, which some critics found too bold. Within months, the initials were removed, creating the first famous rarity of the series, the 1909 SVDB cent. That coin remains one of the most sought after in U.S. history, worth thousands of dollars even today. And that's where the tradition of valuable Lincoln cents truly began. Fast forward 8 decades, and history repeated itself, this time with a missing S instead of added initials. The 1990 Noah's penny carries that same aura of mystery, that same spark of human imperfection that collectors had chased since 1909. And it's this continuity, this thread linking generations of coin enthusiasts, that gives the hobby its soul. Every coin tells part of a larger story, of technology evolving, of designs changing, of the nation growing, but also of the people who dedicate their lives to noticing what others overlook. Now, let's talk about how coin grading works, because this is another layer of why some pennies can sell for astronomical prices while others are worth almost nothing. When a collector finds a coin they believe is rare, they send it to a professional grading company, like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company. There, the coin is examined under high magnification by trained experts who evaluate its strike, luster, surface preservation, and overall eye appeal. Then, they assign it a grade on a 70-point scale. For proof coins, the goal is perfection, PR 70, meaning flawless under magnification. Each increment down the scale can mean a difference of thousands of dollars in value. A 1990 Noah cent graded PR 67 might sell for $10,000, while a PR 69 Deep Cameo, with that sharp mirror finish and frosty details, might fetch double or triple that amount. The coin is then sealed in a tamper-proof plastic holder with its grade and certification number, effectively becoming a piece of art protected for future generations. Collectors obsess over these grades, chasing perfection the way athletes chase world records. And that obsession is what fuels the market. When a new record sale happens, say, a pristine coin sold for $30,000 at auction, other collectors immediately want one. Prices rise, demand spikes, and soon even casual collectors start looking through proof sets, hoping they might stumble upon the next big find. That's how myths like the $173 million penny gain traction, because the line between reality and rumor gets blurred by excitement and hope. But let's look at the economics of it all for a moment. A coin's true market value isn't determined by rumors. It's determined by what someone is actually willing to pay. In the real numismatic world, auction houses like Heritage Auctions or Stack's Bowers set the benchmark. When a 1990 Noah's penny shows up there, its hammer price, the amount paid when the auctioneer drops the gavel, becomes public record. Collectors track these prices closely. As of the last few years, top examples have sold in the range of $15,000 to $30,000, depending on condition. That's still remarkable, a return of millions of percent from a coin that originally cost pennies to produce. So while the $173 million claim is fictional, the underlying truth, that small differences can create immense value, remains absolutely real, and there's something almost poetic about that. Because money, after all, is supposed to be uniform. A penny is a penny is a penny. But when something breaks that uniformity, when one coin out of millions stands apart, suddenly it transcends its purpose. It stops being currency and becomes a symbol. That's what makes the 1990 penny story so powerful. It's not just a financial tale, it's a human one, about mistakes, discovery, and how meaning can emerge from the tiniest cracks in perfection. Now, you might be asking, how do you even identify if your 1990 penny could be special? It's simple but requires patience. First, check if it's a proof coin. Proofs have mirror-like backgrounds and frosted designs, made with extra care for collectors. If your coin is shiny on both sides, perfectly struck, and looks different from a regular circulated penny, it might be a proof. Then look closely under magnification at the area just below the date on the front. If it's from San Francisco, there should be an S. If that S is missing, and you can confirm it's not simply worn away, you might have found something extremely rare. Of course, it's always best to get it verified by a professional, because counterfeits exist. Some people have tried altering regular coins to mimic the Noah's error, but experts can spot the difference instantly. Beyond that, Other rare 1990 varieties exist, though they're less dramatic. Some coins show doubled dies, where the image appears slightly doubled due to a misalignment during striking. Others have off-center strikes, broad strikes, or die cracks. These aren't worth millions, but they can still bring collectors anywhere from $10 to a few $100 depending on rarity and condition. The key is paying attention. The world of coins rewards those who look closer, those who notice what others miss. And this brings us to the culture that has grown around coin hunting, a global network of enthusiasts who spend weekends searching through rolls of coins from banks, magnifying each piece, recording discoveries online. YouTube channels dedicated to coin roll hunting have millions of views. People post their finds on TikTok, Reddit, Facebook groups. What was once a quiet hobby for retirees has become a viral sensation. And at the heart of it, stories like the 1990 penny keep the fire alive. They're modern myths, part truth, part legend, all excitement, but let's not forget the artistry behind these coins. The Lincoln Memorial Reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo, is itself a masterpiece of miniature architecture. Capturing an entire monument on a coin barely an inch wide is no small feat. Each column, each shadow, each engraving reflects the dedication of the engravers who turned cold metal into storytelling. And when you flip the coin to Lincoln's face, that solemn, wise expression, you see the continuity of American art and history merging into one tiny piece of metal. So even a normal 1990 penny carries cultural weight, even if it never becomes a millionaire's collectible. There's also an interesting economic lesson hidden inside this tiny coin. It costs more than a cent to make a cent. That's right. Since the early 2000s, the U.S. Mint has spent more to produce each penny than its face value, largely due to metal costs and inflation. This irony has sparked debates about whether the penny should be retired altogether. Some argue that in a digital age, it's obsolete. But others defend it passionately, not just for sentimental reasons, but because of its historical continuity. Imagine ending a coin design that has featured Lincoln for over 100 years. For collectors and historians, that would feel like losing a piece of identity. So, the penny survives, even as its value in everyday life fades. And maybe that's another reason why the 1990 penny story resonates so deeply. It's a symbol of survival. A reminder that even the smallest, most overlooked things can outlast generations and carry meaning long after their practical use ends. When someone hears, 1990 penny worth $173 million, they might laugh, but they'll also look closer at the change in their pocket, and that small act of curiosity keeps history alive. Now imagine for a moment if the claim were true. If there really was a single 1990 penny valued at $173 million. What would that mean? It would instantly become the most valuable coin on Earth, surpassing even ancient gold medallions and ultra-rare patterns locked in museum vaults. It would likely be insured like fine art, displayed under bulletproof glass, surrounded by security. It would rewrite record books and spark an entire new wave of coin mania. Collectors, investors, and the general public would flood auctions, hoping lightning might strike twice. But in a way, it's almost better that the story remains half legend, because myths inspire more than facts sometimes. The dream of finding a $173 million penny makes people look, learn, and imagine. Meanwhile, the real value, the authentic, measurable worth, still exists in those proof no-s coins. Each one that surfaces reminds the world of how delicate and human even the most precise systems can be. That's the hidden beauty of numismatics. You're not just collecting metal, you're collecting history, error art, and the passage of time. You're holding a story. And perhaps that's why even today, decades later, the fascination hasn't died. Coin conventions still feature panels discussing the 1990 no-s cent. New collectors still dream of finding one in an old set tucked away in a grandparent's attic. It's become more than an object. It's a modern legend, living proof that value can emerge from accident, that beauty can be born from mistake, and that even the smallest things can carry the weight of stories worth telling. So, when someone says a penny is worthless, you can tell them this story of the 1990 cent that defied expectations, of the missing mint mark that changed everything, of how myth and reality dance together in the world of collectors. Because in the end, whether it's worth 1 cent, $1,000, or 100 million, what truly gives it worth is the imagination it inspires, the curiosity it awakens, and the reminder that perfection is overrated. It's the flaws that make life interesting. And now, let's step into the modern era, an age where stories spread faster than ever before, where myths can become global truths overnight, and where something as small as a 1-cent coin can ignite a storm across the internet. The story of the 1990 penny didn't fade away into quiet archives or dusty coin books. It came roaring back to life in the age of social media, where a photo, a rumor, or a short video can reach millions of people within hours. What used to be whispered among collectors in small coin shows now circulates on TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook Reels. The legend of the 1990 penny worth $173 million became one of the most viral coin stories of the decade, and that's where the magic and the madness truly began. Imagine scrolling through your phone one evening and suddenly seeing a video with bright red text flashing on the screen. Check your 1990 penny. It could be worth $173 million. A dramatic soundtrack plays, a narrator speaks fast, and images of shiny copper coins fill the screen. For a few seconds, you're hooked. You check your wallet, you check your drawer, maybe even your piggy bank. That small spark of hope lights up in your chest. What if, just what if, you have that coin? You've just experienced the same thrill that collectors have felt for generations, compressed into a 30-second video. It's the new way of storytelling, and it's made numismatics, the study of coins, suddenly trendy again. But here's the catch. While the internet can spread truth, it can also twist it. Somewhere along the line, someone misread or exaggerated the real facts. Maybe they saw that a 1990 NOS-proof penny had sold for $20,000 or $30,000. Maybe they confused that number with something else. Then another content creator added more drama. Then another rounded the number up, and another multiplied it. Eventually, through layers of repetition and hype, the $173 million figure was born, not from an auction house, not from a collector, but from the echo chamber of digital storytelling. The number didn't need to be real. It just needed to sound amazing. And it worked. Millions of people started searching for their 1990 pennies. Suddenly, every small copper coin felt like a lottery ticket. But the funny thing is, even though the number was fiction, the impact was real. Coin shops saw more visitors. People learned what a mint mark is. They discovered what proof means, what die error means, what the difference is between circulated and uncirculated. The viral myth became an educational wave, turning ordinary folks into amateur historians overnight. Some found genuine valuable coins along the way, not $173 million, of course, but coins worth hundreds or even thousands. So the story, though exaggerated, ended up awakening a sleeping curiosity in millions of people. And that's the irony of it all. The myth made the truth more alive. Let's talk about how coin values actually work in today's digital economy. Unlike decades ago, when collectors met face-to-face, the modern market exists mostly online. Sites like eBay, Heritage Auctions, Great Collections, and Stack's Bowers connect collectors from all over the world. A seller lists a rare penny, bidders compete, and when the hammer falls, the price becomes a reference point for future sales. These transactions are transparent and verifiable, which is why serious collectors trust them over viral videos. A 1990 NOS proof penny graded PR69 might list for $25,000, and that's backed by real buyer data. But then, you'll also find sellers on eBay posting the same coin for $1 million or $173 million, just hoping to attract attention. Those listings are like digital bait, not serious offers, but conversation starters. Yet, screenshots of those listings become viral proof for the myth. Someone sees it, reposts it, says, "Look at this crazy price!" And before long, the internet believes it's sold for that amount. That's how modern legends are born, not in museums, but in algorithms. Still, the fascination is understandable. Because a coin like the 1990 NOS penny represents something bigger. It symbolizes the thin line between ordinary and extraordinary. Think about it. Billions of pennies exist, but only a handful have this missing mint mark. That's the beauty of randomness. It reminds us that the universe itself isn't perfect, that sometimes the most valuable things exist because something went wrong. And maybe that's why these stories resonate so deeply. They whisper that maybe, somewhere in your everyday life, hidden among the ordinary, lies something extraordinary, if only you look closely enough. Now, let's explore how these coins are protected and authenticated in today's world. When a collector finds what they believe to be a rare variety, they don't just rely on visual inspection anymore. They send it to professional grading services like PSGS, NGC, or ANAX. These companies use high-resolution imaging, microscopic analysis, and even metal composition tests to verify authenticity. Every graded coin receives a unique serial number, recorded in an online database. That number guarantees its legitimacy and preserves its story for decades to come. The coin is sealed in a clear capsule, what collectors call a slab, with a label displaying its year, mint, grade, and any special varieties, like 1990 NOS proof. This process transforms the coin into both a collectible and an investment. And in some cases, it becomes a family heirloom, passed down through generations, its story growing richer with time. This is where passion meets technology. The modern coin market doesn't just rely on old traditions. It's evolving with digital tools. There are now blockchain-based coin registries, NFT-linked provenance systems, and even AI-powered graders that analyze coin surfaces to within microns. What used to be a physical hobby is merging with digital innovation. And in that transformation, the story of the 1990 penny continues to thrive. It's not just a relic of the past. It's part of the future of collecting. Let's talk numbers again. How rare is the 1990 NOS penny really? Experts estimate that fewer than 200 examples exist, and most have already been accounted for. That's why its value is stabilized in the five-figure range. For comparison, a 1909 SVB cent has about 484,000 examples, thousands of times more common, yet it still sells for thousands because of its historical status. The NOS penny, by contrast, is a modern rarity, young but precious. If you had one today in top condition, you could sell it to an advanced collector or auction house for enough money to buy a car, pay college tuition, or even make a down payment on a house. That's not bad for a 1-cent coin that weighs less than a paperclip, but the emotional value often exceeds the financial. Collectors talk about the rush of discovery, that lightning bolt moment when you realize you're holding something that shouldn't exist. That moment of awe can't be priced in dollars. It's like finding a hidden signature on a famous painting or uncovering a lost photograph. In that instant, you feel connected to something larger, to history, to chance, to the craftsmanship of human hands. There's also a deeper philosophical side to this whole phenomenon. Why do we care so much about rarity? Why do we assign value to errors, to imperfections? Maybe because we see a reflection of ourselves in them. We all make mistakes, and yet those mistakes can lead to unique paths, unexpected beauty, and meaning. The 1990 penny, missing its mint mark, is like a metaphor for life, incomplete, flawed, but extraordinary because of it. And maybe that's why this simple story continues to echo across generations. It reminds us that even the smallest imperfection can carry infinite worth. Now, let's zoom out and look at the broader coin market. Over the past decade, the demand for rare coins has exploded. Wealthy investors see them as tangible assets, pieces of history immune to inflation and market crashes. Rare coins have become part of diversified investment portfolios, alongside art, watches, and gold. Auction records continue to climb, from million-dollar gold eagles to silver dollars selling for six figures. And yet, in that high-stakes world, it's often the humble penny that captures the most attention. Why? Because everyone can relate to it. Everyone has held one. Everyone knows what it looks like. The penny is democratic. It belongs to everyone, rich or poor. So when a penny turns out to be worth a fortune, it feels like a fairy tale anyone could live. That's why stories like the 1990 penny won't disappear anytime soon. They play on that universal hope, the dream that something small and forgotten might one day change your life. It's a modern treasure hunt, accessible to all. The internet amplifies it, content creators dramatize it, and millions join the chase. And while 99.9% of people will never find a million-dollar coin, they'll still experience the wonder of looking, learning, and imagining. That's the true reward, the sense of discovery itself. And let's be honest, there's also entertainment value. The YouTube videos, the TikTok shorts, the flashy thumbnails with golden coins and big dollar signs, they're part of the spectacle. They capture attention, they teach in the process, and they remind people that history is alive. In an age where digital money dominates, holding a physical coin feels grounding. It's something you can touch, examine, and connect with. The 1990 penny, in that sense, bridges two worlds, the physical and the digital, the real and the imagined. But what if we look even deeper, beyond the myth, beyond the market? What remains is the story of craftsmanship. The 1990 penny, like every coin, was born from design, from engraving, from the human desire to create something lasting. Victor David Brenner's original Lincoln portrait is still there, his signature touch surviving over a century of change. The Lincoln Memorial, though replaced after 2008 by the Union Shield, remains etched into the memory of millions. And even as technology evolves, that design still stands as a tribute to one man's legacy and a nation's ideals. The penny may be small, but it carries a giant on its surface. Lincoln's gaze, timeless and unwavering. So, when you look at a 1990 penny, whether it's a regular one or a rare proof, remember that it's more than metal. It's a tiny monument to persistence, to memory, to imperfection. Its journey from a minting machine in San Francisco to a viral legend worth $173 million isn't just a financial tale, it's a human one. It's about how stories evolve, how truth and exaggeration intertwine, and how meaning can grow far beyond its original context. And maybe that's what value truly means. Not numbers printed on screens, not auction results, but the ability of an object to make people feel, dream, and connect. The 1990 penny, in all its humble glory, has done exactly that, turned a forgotten piece of change into a global conversation about history, hope, and wonder. So the next time you pick up a penny, don't just see it as 1 cent. See it as a piece of art, a relic of time, a symbol of how even the smallest things can leave the biggest marks. Because somewhere in those tiny ridges and coppery gleams lies a lesson, that value isn't always measured in money, but in meaning. The story of the 1990 penny doesn't stop with the coin itself. It keeps echoing in the voices of those who search for it, in the dreams of collectors who see in it a reflection of time's strange humor. Every generation rediscovers it in a new light, adding new layers of meaning. In the 1990s, it was a minting error. In the 2000s, it became a collector's chase. In the 2010s, it was a digital rumor. And in the 2020s, it turned into an internet legend, a tale about hope, chance, and the thrill of possibility. The number $173 million might not be factual, but it has become a symbol of how far imagination can stretch, how deeply people long to believe that something small can become something extraordinary. Behind every coin, there's a craftsman. Behind every craftsman, there's a story. The 1990 penny came from an era of transition, a world shifting from analog to digital, from copper to zinc, from manual engraving to computerized design. In that transition, something human remained, the touch of imperfection. The missing S mint mark on the proof coins wasn't a machine failure. It was a human moment, a blink of error that gave birth to eternal rarity. That's what fascinates collectors the most, the idea that a fleeting mistake can outlive centuries, that a second of oversight can become an artifact of history. If we follow the path of one such coin, from the day it was struck at the San Francisco Mint, it tells a story like no other. Picture it: a freshly polished planchet slides into the press. The die slams down with 40 tons of pressure, imprinting Lincoln's image perfectly but missing one tiny letter, the S. In that instant, an anomaly is born. The coin shines with perfection, yet hides an invisible flaw. It moved through inspection unnoticed, sealed into a proof set, shipped out, and eventually lands in the hands of a collector who, by chance, notices the absence of the mint mark. That single discovery changes its destiny. From one coin among billions, it becomes one in 1,000, then one in 100, then one in a lifetime. This is how every great numismatic story begins, with accident, curiosity, and revelation. The same pattern has repeated throughout history. The 1943 copper penny, accidentally struck when leftover copper planchets were used during wartime steel production, became one of the most famous coins in U.S. history. The 1955 double-die penny, showing a ghostly shadow of doubled letters, made headlines in the 1960s when people found them in their pocket change. The 1969's double die, the 1972 doubled obverse, the 1983 doubled reverse, all of these tell the same timeless story, the beauty of imperfection. Each discovery is like a message from the past, whispering through the metal, reminding us that even in mass production, uniqueness survives. And the 1990 penny fits perfectly into that lineage. It may not have the century-old charm of the 1909's VDB or the mystery of the 1943 copper cent, but it carries something modern, a reminder that even in a world of machines, something human still happens. Now, as we move deeper into the digital era, where currency is becoming numbers on a screen, the fascination with physical coins grows stronger. There's something comforting about the tangibility of metal, its weight, its color, its texture. When you hold a coin, you hold history, design, and intention. You hold something that's been touched, used, circulated. Every scratch, every gleam tells a story of where it's been and who might have held it before you. That emotional connection is what keeps coin collecting alive, even when everything else turns virtual. In the past decade, several famous coins have broken records. The 1933 Double Eagle sold for over $18 million. The 1794 Flowing Hair Silver Dollar crossed $10 million. A 1913 Liberty Nickel fetched millions, despite being only 5 known examples. These coins aren't valuable because of their metal, they're valuable because of their story. They've traveled through time, through wars, through changing governments and economies. And every collector who owns one becomes a part of that story, like a guardian of memory. So, when you hear that a 1990 penny is worth $173 million, maybe it's not the literal truth, but a metaphorical one. Maybe it's worth that much in attention, in curiosity, in the millions of searches it inspired, in the people it educated, in the wonder it reignited. In that sense, its worth can't be measured in dollars, because its real value lies in what it made people feel. In a world where most people scroll past history without noticing, this little coin made them stop and look again. That's a priceless achievement. Collectors often say, "You don't own coins, you just take care of them for the next generation." It's true. The metal survives longer than us. A coin minted in 1990 might outlive us all, still gleaming in the year 2100, still carrying Lincoln's face, still whispering its story. Someone in the future might find it in an attic, dust it off, and rediscover the same legend. They might laugh at the $173 million rumor, and yet feel the same spark of curiosity. Because curiosity never dies, it just changes shape. The global coin market today is a living organism. It thrives on research, trade, and storytelling. New varieties are discovered every year. Old ones are reevaluated. Grading standards evolve. The entire economy of trust between buyer, seller, and historian keeps the community alive. And at the center of it all are coins like the 1990 penny, small but mighty, mysterious yet familiar. Collectors are not just hobbyists, they're archivists of civilization. They study mint records, compare die pairs, document varieties, preserve heritage. Some spend decades chasing a single coin. Some find it in the most unexpected places, in rolls from banks and estate sales, even in thrift stores. The joy of finding a treasure in ordinary places is unmatched. It's that same joy that drives explorers, scientists, and dreamers. And the penny, humble, common, underestimated, becomes the perfect metaphor for that human pursuit. If we trace back the design of the Lincoln cent itself, it's an artwork that has outlived empires. Introduced in 1909 to commemorate Lincoln's 100th birthday, it was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person. Brenner's design was simple but profound, a portrait of honesty framed by the word liberty. On the reverse, his initials VD sparked a small controversy when people thought they were too prominent. Yet those tiny initials became a legend of their own. Over time, the coin changed, from wheat ears to the Lincoln Memorial, and later to the Union Shield. Each redesign marked a new chapter in American identity. But through it all, Lincoln's face endured, a symbol of unity, struggle, and perseverance. By 1990, the penny had already survived 2 world wars, economic depressions, and countless redesigns of other denominations. It had become more than currency, it was a cultural icon. And maybe that's why stories like the $173 million penny feel so powerful. Because they tap into something collective, a shared sense of history, nostalgia, and wonder. Everyone, regardless of age or background, has touched a penny. Everyone has dropped one, picked one up, flipped one for luck. It's a common thread that connects generations. Now, when collectors discuss the true market value of the 1990 penny, they separate myth from reality. A regular 1990D or 1990p penny, in circulated condition, is worth 1 cent, maybe 2 cents for its copper content, if it were older. But the rare 1990 NOS proof cent, verified by PCGS or NGC, can fetch between $15,000 and $35,000 depending on its grade. That's the grounded truth, and yet, people are drawn more to the legend than the numbers. It's a fascinating example of how perception shapes value. The myth travels further than the fact because the myth is bigger than life, and that's how storytelling works. It transforms data into emotion, statistics into belief. The 1990 penny story, whether exaggerated or not, has inspired millions to learn something new, to look closely, to appreciate detail. It's made people talk about minting history, errors, and the art of coins, topics that once belonged only to museums. That's the power of narrative. It turns collectors into teachers and viewers into learners without them even realizing it. In the end, the $173 million penny isn't about the money. It's about what it represents, a spark of wonder in an age of skepticism. It reminds us that even in a world drowning in digital content, a tiny piece of copper can still stop people in their tracks. That's the beauty of tangible history. You can't swipe it away, you can't scroll past it, you can only hold it, feel its edges, and imagine the journey it's been on. And maybe that's what we all crave deep down: connection. To feel that something we touch has meaning. To believe that even in the smallest objects, there are infinite stories waiting to be found. The 1990 penny, whether worth 1 cent or 100 million, is proof of that human hunger for discovery. As this story comes to a close, imagine the camera zooming out slowly, from the tiny coin resting in someone's palm, to the room around them, to the city, to the world. Billions of coins scattered across the earth, each with its own path, its own scratches, its own silent testimony. Somewhere among them, one might be different, an error, a rarity, a legend. Maybe it's in your pocket. Maybe it's in a jar on your desk. Maybe it's hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to notice. That's what makes the story eternal. It invites you to look, and when you do, you'll realize that this isn't just about coins. It's about perspective, about the value of patience, curiosity, and hope, about how a forgotten penny can teach us the same lessons as a masterpiece painting, that beauty is often found in the details, that meaning lives in the small things, and that stories are what give life its worth. So, the next time you hear about a penny worth millions, smile. Whether it's true or not, it's a reminder that wonder still exists, that stories still travel, that mystery still matters. Because as long as people keep searching, the legend of the 1990 penny will never fade. It will live on in whispers, in posts, in videos, in the hopeful glances of people checking their change. And somewhere out there, another myth will be born, another story of something ordinary turning extraordinary. That's how history continues, not in textbooks, but in curiosity, not in silence, but in wonder. And maybe that's the real treasure, the one no money can buy. And now, we reach the final chapter of this story, the moment where fact and myth, metal and meaning, history and imagination all merge into one single truth. The 1990 penny, that tiny circle of copper and zinc, has traveled far beyond what any mint worker or collector could have predicted. It has crossed borders, cultures, and decades. It has lived multiple lives, as currency, as curiosity, as legend, and finally as symbol. And in its reflection, we see something very human, our endless desire to find wonder in the ordinary. There's something poetic about the way a coin lives. It starts as raw metal, refined and shaped by fire, stamped with precision, and then released into the world, to circulate, to disappear, to reappear. It passes through countless hands, pays for countless things, lives 1,000 small stories. By the time someone finds it again, decades later, it carries invisible fingerprints of history. Every coin, no matter how small, has touched more lives than any one person ever could. The 1990 penny is no different, except that somewhere along its journey, it became a legend. It's strange how myths begin. They start as facts, then grow through curiosity, through retelling, through exaggeration, until they become something larger than the truth itself. But sometimes, those myths do something precious. They reawaken our sense of discovery. They remind us to look closer, to question what we think we know. That's what happened with this coin. Whether or not anyone ever truly found a penny worth $173 million doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that millions of people picked up a coin, turned it over, and asked, "Could this be the one?" That question, that spark of curiosity, is what keeps history alive. And maybe that's the lesson hidden in all of this, that value isn't just about money or rarity or demand. Real value lives in what something makes us feel. The 1990 penny might be worth 1 cent in your hand, but infinite cents in your imagination. It reminds you that greatness can hide in plain sight, that stories can be buried in the smallest corners of our lives, waiting to be found. Every collector, at some point, realizes that what they're really collecting isn't coins, it's moments. The thrill of discovery, the satisfaction of learning something new, the quiet pride of preserving a piece of the past. When they look at a coin like the 1990 penny, they don't just see metal, they see time, craftsmanship, mystery. They see the invisible threads that connect generations, from the engraver who made it to the child who saved it, to the adult who rediscovered it decades later. And then there's the weight of symbolism. The penny carries the face of Abraham Lincoln, a man who himself was born in poverty, who rose through hardship, who became one of the most enduring figures in history. Maybe it's no coincidence that the smallest coin bears the image of one of the greatest men. There's a kind of poetic justice in that. It's as if history itself decided to teach us humility, that value doesn't always come from size, that greatness can exist in smallness, that dignity doesn't depend on wealth. That's what gives the penny its emotional power. It's not just a piece of currency, it's a reflection of character. And that's why stories about rare pennies, no matter how exaggerated, will always resonate. They speak to the dreamer in us, the believer, the seeker, the part of us that hopes life still holds surprises. Think about how many times people have bent down to pick up a penny from the ground, almost instinctively. We tell ourselves it's for luck, but maybe it's something deeper. Maybe it's a quiet gesture of respect, an acknowledgement that even the smallest things deserve attention. Maybe on some level, we sense that the penny is more than metal, that it's a tiny reminder of patience, persistence, and possibility. The 1990 penny story has also taught us something profound about the modern world, that information, once released, can take on a life of its own. A simple fact about a rare proof coin transformed into a global legend worth hundreds of millions. It spread from post to post, from comment to comment, reshaped by each retelling. But that's not a failure of truth, it's a testament to the power of storytelling. The story of the $173 million penny became a mirror reflecting our own hopes and imaginations. It showed that in a world overflowing with noise, we still crave wonder. And maybe that's what this coin ultimately represents, not wealth but wonder. Not rarity, but remembrance. Not perfection, but imperfection. It's a reminder that even in a world obsessed with progress, speed, and digital abstraction, there's still room for small, silent miracles. That a piece of metal struck decades ago can still make people stop, look, and dream. As time moves forward, the 1990 penny will continue to circulate, not in pockets, but in stories. It will appear in new videos, new articles, new rumors. Some will call it the $173 million coin. Others will call it a hoax. But either way, it will keep doing what it's always done, inspiring people to search. To search not just for coins, but for meaning. To find significance in the overlooked. To believe that discovery is still possible. And if you think about it, that's a powerful message in today's world. Because sometimes, the greatest treasures aren't out there waiting to be found. They're already in our hands. We just have to see them differently. So, when you finish watching this video, take a moment. Open your drawer. Empty your pockets. Pick up a penny and hold it between your fingers. Look at its surface, the scratches, the shine, the portrait of Lincoln gazing quietly to the right. Ask yourself what it's seen, where it's been, how many lives it's touched. You might not find a coin worth $173 million, but you'll find something far rarer. Perspective. That's the real secret behind every great coin story. It's not about getting rich. It's about feeling rich, in curiosity, in wonder, in appreciation for the world's small details. Because life itself is made up of small details. Tiny, ordinary moments that, when looked at closely enough, become extraordinary. Just like the 1990 penny, the camera could fade now, the sound of a soft piano rising in the background, a slow zoom on the coin gleaming under the light. A voice, calm but powerful, would say something like this: "Sometimes the things we overlook hold the most meaning. Sometimes the stories we doubt carry the most truth. And sometimes, even the smallest coin can remind us that value isn't given, it's discovered." And as the music swells, the final image stays on screen. A single penny resting on a wooden table, light glinting off its surface. The date, 1990, shining clearly under the word, Liberty. Maybe it's the same coin from the start of the video, maybe not. That's for the viewer to decide. But the message is simple, timeless, and unforgettable. Every coin has a story. Every story has a lesson. Every small thing holds a big truth. If you're willing to look closely enough, the screen fades to black. The sound of a single coin dropping echoes softly, followed by silence. And in that silence, the audience feels it, that strange, beautiful realization that wonder never really leaves us. It just hides, waiting to be noticed again. So whether the 1990 penny is worth 1 cent or $173 million doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that for a moment, it made us believe. It made us search. It made us feel connected, not just to a coin, but to time itself. And maybe that's the most valuable thing of all.